So we're just here for stream number 3. Hopefully it all sounds okay today. I'm going to be showing off the new modules that are coming in firmware 45 to 45. So yeah, there's a bunch of them. Hopefully give me a yell in the chat if everything sounds fine. I'll be running through these. And then I'll be answering a couple of, any questions you guys have got, and a few questions that have been in the on the Facebook users group and stuff this week. So, audio and video are good. Progress. The magic of streaming continues to work. All right. So I'm going to run through some of the new modules that are coming with 245, just to show how they work. This firmware should probably be out today. Oh, well, later today, Australia time. I should have put on this strap beforehand. So yeah, first I'll show off some of these ones. All of these ones can take an external input or for an LFO. I am entangled in my headphone cable. Alright, there we go. So at the moment I've just got the Harmonic tremolo up there. So yeah, a few people had requested something on these lines. So obviously you can build a Harmonic tremolo yourself with the with a low pass and a high pass and split them out like that, or the Oberheim filter that has separate outs for each of the bands, but so, a little bit of that. So you can change the crossover frequency, which is where it splits between the two bands. Because a harmonic tremolo basically tremolos the highs and the lows separately, so you can split where those are. And the depth of the tremolo is easily adjusted there. So that's kind of nice. Obviously you can tap tempo the BPM by just connecting a foot switch into that. But say you want something slightly more adventurous. Only acoustic sounds from this guitar, or is the is my other level just too low on the other channels? Is that just so you're not getting any tremolo-y sound in the stream? Yeah, it probably is. I cranked up the mic because I was too quiet last time. I'll turn up the input for the interface a little bit. 1 sec, I'll just check if that's all good. Sorry, I cranked the. I cranked the audio volume a little bit up. 1 sec for the mic. Instrument 3, 4. Hopefully that's a bit better. There we go. Yeah, hopefully that's a little bit louder than from the guitar. I'm so tangled. So we got our tremolo there. So yeah, that's nice and fun and all good things. But it's just one wave shape. And of course, this being us, we don't want to just, one basic tremolo. We want to be able to do fun things. So if you go in each of the new modules will have one that's called the thing, chorus T in this case, or harmonic tremolo. And they have one that's called harmonic tremolo external. And you can see that they say that one has an internal LFO and one takes in an external LFO. So if we drag the external one over here, connect this one up, we can then connect this LFO I handily left here. We can connect that up, and now I've only connected it to the left out. Drop up a bit of depth there so things are obvious. You notice we don't have a frequency and stuff anymore in the actual tremolo module. But look, we've still got tremolo because it's coming from the LFO now. So now we can have different wave shapes, including these ones will obviously click at the start of their shape. So, and we can obviously have the random if we would like that. Obviously the random is a bit adventurous by itself and clicky and weird, so unless that's what you want, it's probably nice to run a slew limiter after it. So a slew limiter will, if it's just a sudden change, the slew limiter will change it to being a soft change. So basically it changes how fast things can change. So we'll just disconnect this guy from here, disconnect from that, and we'll connect it up to the slew limiter instead. I still haven't worked out how to get my fingers out of the way when we're making a video. That's my main challenge. So we'll turn down these slew times a little bit. What did I turn that to? Too high. See, now we're getting random changes, but they're smoothed. We can turn up the level of the LFO a little bit. Oh no. It's pretty cranked actually. Oh, yeah. Turn up our depth here. So. So you notice that we get, smoothed randomness then because of the slew limiter, which is kind of fun. And then I think it's kind of interesting. Faster randomness is kind of interesting with this. Okay, so that's the harmonic tremolo, which is, a pretty straightforward thing, running through the slew limiter, so you can change any of the shapes. Obviously that means that we've got, squares. That square's running into the slew limiter, so it's taking off the edges of it. And then we've got, obviously all these different shapes. And you can run the pattern generators, ADSRs, any of those things into any of these effects. So I'll show you a little bit of some of the other ones. Obviously, we saw the phaser last week because it was added in the previous firmware. So I'll show you a little bit of some of the new ones. We've got a flanger, a chorus, a vibrato, and the harmonic tremolo to join the phaser as having external inputs. So the chorus is it's a 8-voice chorus, so it sounds quite different than the J chorus that's in there at the moment, and has just a bit more configurable. Well, the J chorus is a nice, hey, here's an accurate, somewhat accurate recreation of the synth style chorus, and then this one's a bit more versatile. So we'll have a listen to some of them if that's interesting. And just show off some of the basic features of these guys. So yeah, just connect. I'll connect up, of course. So obviously all of these can take in what's called LFOs if you want, or they can just have an internal LFO, depending on what you want. Connect out. Did I connect RNL there? Yeah, I did good. Yep. Cool. So, a little bit of chorus there. So this has a few features that the other ones doesn't. You can change the bass delay length of the chorus, which will get you lots of different kind of styles. So we crank that down, we'll get. If you've got a much lower chorus, you can go with more depth and it won't be as seasicky. So deviation changes the amount of each voice, basically. And if we crank up time, we'll start to notice them quite a lot more. So that ends up ending. If you get it very long, it just ends up like a lot of very short delays. So yeah, you'll see that there. We just crank time up a lot, so if you're if you have it at a very high speed, you should probably put the depth down a bit, because then otherwise it'll, unless you want really swirly sounds, this will sound a bit more. I'd probably crank this down a little bit more still. So you can get a lot of different types of chorus sounds depending on how you have all of these set and what kind of speed you have set. So, pretty straightforward. Again, it takes in an external one if you want it to. But we'll move on to some of the slightly more exciting stuff. Obviously, flanges. It flanges. I'll show you a second of flanger. So this is the external flanger. So we'll put an LFO into it. And luckily there's that. We'll just grab it from this. We'll just grab it from this slew limiter from earlier. And we'll just check that we don't have anything crazy set. That's all. Well, it's pretty fast. Okay. Turn that down a little bit. We can check what this one sounds like. See, obviously we've got a ton of options here. And you can get very jet planey. So yeah, you can get full jet plane action if you would like. So there we've got the random running into the slew limiter and into the flanger. So you're getting those random patterns, and they're kind of giving you different kind of pitches. Which can be kind of fun on some sounds. Yeah, obviously you can do kind of more conventional stuff as well. Actually, this is still pretty adventurous because I got the feedback set quite pretty high. So yeah, if you get the feedback up this high, it starts to get, you know, pretty, well, that's a drum, pretty intense. So we can crank that feedback down a little bit. See, it's got negative and positive feedback for your swirly pleasure. And we can turn depth down as well. And we can get more gentle effects. Let's turn LFO to speed down a little bit too if you want something less. And lots of positive feedback will give you kind of the opposite sound to the squelchiness you got before. Yep, you can find the whales. So yeah, the vibrato is very versatile. It's got lots of features, notch width, notch depth, notch frequencies, all of those kind of things. So it does quite a lot. It's also got two modes, which basically turn it into kind of either a pure vibrato mode or closer to a phaser. So you can get some more kind of weird phasering sounds. It's quite a different sound to the normal phaser because it's got a lot more stages. And this one tries to model an analog phaser, whereas this one's, a little bit wilder. Well, just a bit more feature-rich. So it's just got a bit more versatility in it, which is handy for some stuff. So I can show off any of those ones. But basically, all of these work in kind of the same way. They've got mostly got the same set of, obviously they've got some, minor variations. Like this one's got a color one as well, which just changes the basic algorithm a little bit. The flangers, got feedback. The chorus, has a little bit of different stuff, but basically they've got approximately the same one. The vibrato's got obviously a lot more things than some of the others, but basically they're the same kind of concept for each of them, and each of them have that it's called external and non-external version, and they're all going to be coming out in the firmware that'll come out probably today or tomorrow. There's a couple of other things in that firmware. The main ones, and later in the week there's going to be some, or in the next firmware after this one, which will be either early next week or the end of this week, will be the sequencer stuff. So I'm some of the way through that, the first versions of the sequencer. Some of you might remember the earlier sequencers that were back in version 1. It's more of just a step sequencer than those ones. But you'll be able to change when steps are occurring, directions of steps, and stuff like that, all from the other CVs. So you'll be able to press one of the foot switches and get to go to the next step, or trigger it from another sequencer or from an LFO. So you'll be able to create quite complicated patterns with those features. Yeah. I don't know what else there are questions about at the moment. If anybody else has a question they're keen to have answered, or something they're keen to have explained, I'm keen to talk. I'm trying to remember what some of the other questions from the Facebook group were. I had run it. Oh, I think I wrote one of them down. 1 second. I will check what the. If anybody else has one, please tell me. Please suggest any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to look at my notes. Notes. Okay. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, feel free to ask anything. Otherwise, are these? No, they're not all Beebo only. The harmonic tremolo is in Digit and Beebo. I just thought the tremolo made sense in the Digit firmware because there's a few people that want kind of the amp-like effects, which the harmonic tremolo is just kind of, a thing that goes with an amp. What's the analog path of the overall pedal? It's not analog drive-through. If you're, when it's running, there isn't any analog drive-through. Mainly because the dry path is so configurable. Like you'll notice that here I've set up this is, in this one, you'll notice I haven't set any dry path at all because I'm just running everything through through this flanger, and then it's got a depth option, which is blending blending the wet and the dry. There's also, if we go into effects and we scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's also the wet dry and the wet dry stereo modules. So they'll blend the dry path. One of the things that makes things a bit confusing for having anything like analog drive-through, which maybe there's a cunning way to do it. I haven't thought of a cunning way to do it, but there could be a cunning way that I don't understand that doesn't take giant piles of very expensive hardware. But often, say if you have, this is a wet dry stereo. So obviously you're going to want to blend 1 and 2 into this as the dry. But sometimes people want to use 1 and 3, and sometimes people want input 1 to route to output 1 and 2, or output 1 and 3. And that basically made it impossible because of the flexibility of where people wanted the dry routed, it made it impossible for me to work out how to do analog drive-through. If I had a simpler routing system, it would be obviously straightforward, because then I just, route. If I had, 2 ins and 2 outs and you could only route to them, or 1 in, 1 out. If I had 1 in and 1 out, then I'd just have, the dry goes from 1 to 2, input 1 to output 1, and life would be easy. How do I decide which modules for Digit and which ones for Beebo? Basically, general vibe. Some things I think of as fitting in for both of them. Some things I think of as fitting in more for the stuff that does delay stuff and reverb stuff. Obviously, there's some basic things that I think need to be in everything. But if it's more of a modulation feature, like a flanger or phaser, then I think it probably makes more sense in the. If it's a very synthy thing, then it probably makes more sense in the Beebo firmware. But yeah. Oh, and when it's related to the analog drive-through, when it's So yeah, when it's on, it's going in the, it's being digitally converted. When it's off at the moment, I don't do DSP bypass with the default binding of this one. If you want DSP bypass, you'll have to just bind the module to turn on and off. I've shown you how to do those ones in the past, but you just hold the module and then press the foot switch, and that'll toggle the module on and off instead of the whole pedal. That is confusing if you have a bunch of modules. You'll probably have to work out something more cunning if you do want DSP bypass for some reason, because if you're doing some more complicated routing, normally when you go into if you're using the analog bypass, which is the normal, it connects the inputs to the outputs, then, which is the normal way if you just hit the bypass button, that'll just connect input 1 to output 1, input 2 to output 2. So it's very limited as far as the routing features then. Yeah, that's probably the best. So one of the questions is, if I ran it in a loop that had in a parallel loop where I could mix with dry, would that be a good option? That's how I recommend running any of the delay or reverb effects if you can, because then you can keep your dry signal totally separate to the pedal. Which if you've got the option to run it like that, then it's a pretty flexible option then. Obviously, either way works, but yeah, parallel's quite a neat way to do that. And this encourages that kill dry kind of parallel routing quite extensively. Cool. So one of the things that was asked about earlier that's in my list is multiband stuff. So if you want to have a multiband compressor or a multiband reverb, what do I mean by multiband reverb? If you want to have the highs and the lows have different reverb on them, that's actually pretty straightforward to set up in Digit or Beebo. I'm going to add some new modules in the future to make that even easier, so you can have multiple splits more easily, if anybody's interested in that. But basically the way you do it at the moment is you grab a filter. These, obviously you can split them yourself with low and high pass filters, but the Oberheim filter is the easiest way to do that. So Oberheim filter has multiple outs. It has a low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop. So with this one, you just pull out the lows to one side, do whatever you want to the lows, and then you pull out the highs to one side, do whatever you want to the highs. So yeah, that's the way you'll do multi-band stuff. And then you can choose where you want the band to split with the filter, and then have different reverbs on the lows and different reverbs on the highs, or different delays, or whatever you want, or compression. Multi-band compression is obviously a popular technique, and that's easy to achieve with that. Will there be a looper sampler feature in the future? Yes, there will be a looper and sampler feature in the future. Yes, there will be both samplers and loopers at some point in the future. I wouldn't suggest anybody buy the pedal because they want a looper, because I don't know when I'm going to do it, and it might be at some point in the distant future. I am planning to do it, and writing a looper or a sampler is very easy code wise. But the challenge is making something that's has a good usable user interface and a sensible design. And that's really the thing I'm trying to, spend some time working out Joe, who does a lot of the UI designs, done some cool UI designs for that. And I've seen stuff that, I've had a look at a bunch of other loopers that, my friends and other people have got or worked on. I don't know if you've ever seen Loopy HD for the iPad. That's by a friend of mine here from Melbourne. And obviously that's fantastic looking stuff. I'd love to have something that looks and functions as effectively as something like that. That'd be really pretty fancy. So, yeah, I kind of want to push the looper and the sampler into the direction of things like Bitwig or Ableton Live, kind of those kind of clip-based launching kind of stuff. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible, but that would be the goal. Something, a bit more versatile than some of the other, or a little different focus than some of the other loopers that are out there. Just because, weird, different stuff is what we do. What is the bitrate of the converters? Also, what is the internal bitrate? So, it is very high and also doesn't really, so the internal bitrate is 32-bit float, and which is the highest that is in any way sensible. And the converter bitrate is 24-bit. So bitrate is related to dynamic range, and which is the highest dynamic range you can express. And a 24-bit converter can express more than our perception of silence to our perception of pain. Explosions next to you kind of loud. That's the kind of... It expresses more than that bit rate for 24-bit. So anything that says, hey, I've got 32-bit converters is living in Magic Land. They're not a thing. So yeah, 24-bit converters. Realistically, would it make any difference if I was running 12-bit or 16-bit or 18-bit converters on this? No, probably not. Why am I running 24-bit converters that do 192k hertz? Because it's hard to buy anything else nowadays. So I got I use the normal ones, normal modern converters, which are 24-bit. And to get to actual 24-bit noise floor, you have to have really good circuit layout and design. So the actual numbers of the converters don't actually matter very much compared to the layout of the circuit board. And to actually achieve proper 24-bit noise floor in a guitar environment is incredibly hard because of the impedance of the the inputs and stuff like that for guitar. It's definitely not something I don't find it easy to solve that kind of stuff. I don't think it is for anybody. So yeah, 24-bit though is the answer. Are there any other ones there? Oh yeah, and about fade. Oh good. So yeah, the other kind of things you'll probably be interested in with inputs and outputs. Obviously there's 4 of them, and the current ones have. I've got this question a few times lately. These are Type B MIDI in and out, which is otherwise known as the same one as Chase Bliss and also known as the wrong one, because there was. Since I did the original design of these, the MIDI Manufacturers Association announced a standard for MIDI on TRS, and that standard is 3.5 mil. It supports this 3.5 mil one, so these are actually standard connectors nowadays. But the pinout is the opposite way around than I chose. I chose the same one as Chase Bliss because that was common, but Type A is actually now the standard one. So yeah, the future ones will actually, I will be switching the hardware when I do new circuit boards. They'll be switching to Type A eventually. Obviously, it won't really change anybody. It's just, I just want to use the standard plugs now that there is a standard. Well, they are, they're the same connectors and everything. Are there any fun hidden Easter egg features? Well, apart from doing really crazy stuff with the, like the confusing intersection patch, I think that's pretty much a fun Easter egg feature because I'm making the drum pattern generator change the turntable stop effect, and that's pretty crazy to play with. I think the weird whale sound generator with the when you get the phaser and the flanger and the vibrato settings doing some interesting stuff. That's probably one of the Easter eggs. You can get to some really weird stuff doing that, which is fun. Especially when you get drums from the drum pattern going against it, and you can really get into some interesting soundscapes and patterns and stuff there, which is good fun. Cool. So yeah, the other plans for the near future is get that sequencer in. Then I'll have a look at. I've added a bunch of stuff to the to-do list recently. Oh yeah. I'll just glance at what the other ones on that are. Good to hear. I'm happy you're enjoying the Beebo. Oh yeah, I find that people aren't using the envelope followers at the moment very much to do things like ducking or side chaining. So if you want a side chain compressor, you can do that really easily at the moment with the envelope followers. But it's a bit annoying to set up levels because you have to just listen, change knob, listen, change knob. What I want to do is something so it detects. You play for a little bit and you say, hey, set max level. And then you play for a little bit quietly and you say, hey, set min level. And then whatever parameter you want to automate with them, you automate with that. So that's in my to-do for hopefully this week after I get the step sequencer done. Then I'm adding a quantizer and a porting the mutable instruments marbles module, which is a controllable randomness generator. So that'll generate random melodies and stuff like that. And then with the quantizer, that'll allow you to snap a melody to a scale. So if you've got an LFO or something like that, you can then snap that LFO to being in, D minor or something, and then, get contact. You can get a specific pattern out of them. And then with the melody generator, with the random melody generator, you'll be able to, generate melodies. And because of the way the oscillators are controlled, it's very easy for us to do non-Western pitches. So, it's not just C and C sharp. You can get quarters and stuff, quarter sharps and stuff like that. So you can easily do Arabic scales or Indian scales if you want to do stuff like that. So that's on the list. Also, USB MIDI, I've got that working. I just need to test it a bit more because there's a lot of things I need to test to check that it works in lots of different situations. I've got 3 or 4 USB MIDI devices here, but obviously Melbourne's still in lockdown, so I can't easily see other humans, and so I can't really easily test with other MIDI hardware at the moment. So they're the ones I can get easily. Yeah, they're the main things this week that I can remember. Oh yeah, and yes, there's some random other little bug fixes and improvements, but hopefully we've cleaned up most of the obvious ones recently. Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, if something's changing when you're routing through it, I'd say check your input levels. That's the most common one. If you go in here into settings, one thing to check is always this one's set input level. So you go up or down on that one, and then you hit set input level. Yes, the UI is a bit stupid. It should just set it when you go up and down. It doesn't. I've been meaning to fix that for really a very long time. But yeah, go up or down, hit set input level, and then check that your bypass level is the same as your input level. Otherwise, you'll be boosting up a bunch sometimes, depending on what your the impedance of your input signal is. That's the usual one that'll be doing that. So that yeah, that's pretty common. Check that it's not messing with your levels there, because that's probably what will be doing it. Yeah, so check that. This setting page actually has a few other handy things in it that obviously you can set the MIDI stuff and stuff like that and import and export IRs. But you can also, if you hit set author here, that'll change your name in the presets, so that when you export your presets, they'll have your name in it, and then that's handy if you're sharing them. Yes, yes, the question about audio input meters and things like that, and general visualization. It is definitely on my to-do list. I've got lots of GPU performance, like graphics performance here, to spend on that. The downside is that I'd want to have them only on when you're in a module or something like that showing them, because otherwise you're spending a lot of the actual CPU's time on visualization instead of the audio stuff. And even though I love lots of pretty things on the screen changing and stuff, there has to be a focus for me on being able to have a lot of modules and a lot of audio content, because at the moment I've got a vibrato, a phaser, a flanger, a harmonic, tremolo, and a filter and an LFO in this module, and it's I'm not even hitting the 60% of CPU indicator to show the CPU. But I like to have that lots of performance just for when you want to do more complicated stuff. But yeah, having some kind of visualization is really handy, especially for understanding what's going on with some of the when you're doing more complicated things with the what's called control values. Because sometimes when you're filtering a control value or something, it's handy to be able to actually see what it's doing, what the LFO shape ends up looking like, and things like that. I am actually probably not in this firmware not in the next firmware update, but maybe the one after that. There's going to be another different LFO coming as well. That will be showing that'll allow you to do some easier control from MIDI that a few people have asked about. Because at the moment, you can obviously send a clock into the LFO if you want to clock from MIDI clock. But you can't control any of its other settings from MIDI at the moment. But the plan is to make all of that. Yes, and a MIDI input light would be some kind of visualization on that kind of stuff would be handy, because it is a bit difficult at the moment. Actually, I think probably a log or something just that shows what MIDI messages, like a debug log would be, even if it's a special module that does that, would be pretty handy, just so you can turn that on and see what all the MIDI messages that are being sent by your other devices are. That'd be pretty handy, just because sometimes when you're trying to work out, oh, okay, what does this thing send? What does it receive? Oh, it does this when you turn this on. That'd be handy just to see all of that information easily. Yeah, and currently the USB MIDIs will use the same in and out modules. Well, when I introduce USB MIDI. That doesn't work at the moment. That's going to come. Well, it doesn't. Not in this firmware yet. Yes. Okay. I just have to read this one. It's got more text. I have to get closer. Pitch range modifier controllers. I have it so it detects the incoming pitch and then says fast trem up on higher pitches and lower trem on lower gain guitar notes. Yes. Yes. You could actually do that right now. Yes. So, yeah, you'd have to use the... I've never tried doing that. You'd have to use the pitch detection module. And then it'll give you a volt per octave, like a CV out that's in volt per octave. So that's basically, yeah, there's a pitch that you can then do things to. And you can multiply that with the LFO. It wouldn't be super easy right now. Because, yeah, you'd have to multiply that in some cunning way into the LFO. So basically you'd be, ring modding the LFO against that signal somehow. Which is probably weird. Yeah, it'd be easier if I had a node that converted between that and then said, hey, change this thing to a speed that did that. Yeah, I haven't really thought about changing things like that based on pitch detection. It's quite, yeah. I have thought about some other controls based on pitch that would be interesting. But yeah, no, that's would be possible at the moment, just very fiddly. Because yeah, you can convert the pitch into a CV, and then you can use that CV in any of the ways you can use any of the other controls. So yeah, it would be possible, but massively fiddly. If there's anything else, I think that I've covered the main things I was planning to cover. If there's any other last minute questions, otherwise I think that's probably going to be most of what we want to babble about today. Yeah, I'm tangled in my giant collection of cables. Yeah, if you've got any other questions, ask them now. Otherwise, I'm going to disconnect these guys and plug into other stuff. Let me have some crazy vibrato time. Oh yeah, running next. Cute. There are Harmoniser modules coming. Not easily. Harmonizing's hard. As I said in the last... Oh, did I just bump the camera? Harmonizing's hard. You can do pitch detection at the moment, and then you can run that into a scale, and then you can create synths based on that, and you can pitch shift based on a... that's definitely a thing that can do. But Yeah, actually doing interesting harmonizing is actually a bit complicated. I am going to, as for the synth stuff, I am going to add a bunch of modules for easily adding musical intervals onto pitches. So you can play one note and then ask for a synth to be an octave up or a fifth down, etc. Yeah, having modules control other modules is definitely the basics of the key thing in this kind of modular environment, and that's kind of that's why these ones with the LFO going to a slew limiter and controlling these ones are so interesting. And then the nice thing is that you can have all of these things kind of work together. You can have a tremolo and a vibrato or something. And then with the new tempo ratio one, you can have you can have them happening on the offbeats from each other, or one on the one thing happening on the one and then the other things happening on the other beats. That's all possible now, and will be even easier with the sequencer stuff for that kind of. Let's go for full width vibrato mode. So this vibrato has way too many options, but it's kind of fun. We're just going for some simple stuff there. Then we can go back to the randomness, or we can go to conventional. And we can get pretty adventurous with the vibrato if we start to put in the feedback gain. It can get into crazy land. Which is probably a bit too much, bit weird. See, so you can get weird wonderfulness out of the vibrato if you are that way inclined, or you can get something a bit more vaguely normal. You got a lot of options here with just being able to control all these frequencies and invert particular bands and fun stuff. But you can also pull it back to something, usable. Yeah, a little bit more normal there. All right, I'll look at these last questions, and then I think that'll be it for today. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Tim, I just saw your question about it changing based on volume. Yeah, that one's easy to do. I thought you'd making it change based on pitch. Making it change based on pitch requires, pitch detection and then complicated stuff. Making it change on volume is really easy. All that stuff you said. So you've asked for. Could it be like that the LFO gets faster on the first attack and progressively ramping slower as the note decays? Yeah. So that's something you can definitely do. Because you just need the you just wanting to detect a level there. Oh yeah, okay. For pitch, yeah, as I said, pitch it's more complicated. if you're wanting to change pitch of stuff based on your pitch, detecting the pitch you're playing and changing stuff, that's more complicated. If it's based on level, then you can just use the current envelope followers, which, yeah, I am going to improve. But the pitch detection at the moment, it does generate out a CV, the volt per octave CV, but it's just fiddly to use that to convert to something that's more or less depending on up or down. It's just a little bit fiddly. Cool. Otherwise, that's hopefully we'll have some new updates soon. Thanks everybody for checking out this stream. There is going to be one hopefully exciting new other weird delay thing that's coming very soon that I'm going to be showing. But yeah, thank you for watching another stream. Hope it was useful. All right. Thanks, everybody.